Keepa is the single most important software for Amazon sellers, and it's crazy because there is nobody dissecting Keepa graphs for us Canadians. There's a million and one American gurus showing you how to actually see a graph, but it's not reflective to us Canadians. The Canadian market is different than the US. This is your A to Z guide. I'm going to show you everything there is with Keepa, how to show you actually if there's volume on a graph, and if products are actually profitable for the Canadian market. So stick around. So you're storefront stocking or doing the method that you want and you end up on a listing. How do I know if this is an actual good product based off the Keepa graph and the seller amp data? Because all I see is American sellers and their advice. So this is the step-by-step guide of what I do when I initially land on a product to see if it's actually profitable and if the volume is actually there for us in the Canadian market. The number one thing we're going to do is we're going to have to check if we're eligible for the product. If we're not allowed to sell it, I'm not a fan of ungating. That's a different topic. So if it's no, I am moving on right away. There's no point in reading a Keepa graph if you're not ungated. But assuming you are, before we actually go and see if we can get this product at a profitable price, I want to see the Keepa graph. So I'm going to scroll down, make my camera a little smaller here, and we want to, first things first, see this pink line here. And this pink line is the buy box history. The price might be completely different. You might have people that are selling here at $19, but the buy box is at 21 because Amazon decides who is at the buy box at what time. So we want to see here a somewhat of a stable price, and we want to determine our ceiling and our floor, right? So our ceiling is like kind of the highest price point that we're going to realistically sell this at. And we want to look at it on a 3-month and a yearly basis. Right? On a yearly basis, we want to see what's coming up. What happened last year? Last year, this price went down to $19, close to $14. So we're going to guesstimate, right? Okay, at $18.99 is going to be my floor. So let's go and see what I can get this product at, right? And then we would go and source. I know you guys can't necessarily see it, but it's being sold for $8.49. So this would be unprofitable at our floor. And if we start looking at our ceiling, which is going to be around, if we zoom in on this 3-month here, it's going to be around 23-ish on a top line of $24. Well, now we're at 57% ROI. So now we need to decide, okay, we're very profitable on one end of the spectrum at $24.99. But if we end up selling in the $19, $18 range, well, then we're losing money. So what do we do? Is this lead an actual lead to purchase or not? Well, we need to move on. That's not enough information to give us a reason to buy or not. So what other information can we get based on this Keepa graph specifically for the Canadian market? Well, we really want to see what is the action going on in the bottom graph here with this seller count, right? Because this blue line at the bottom is telling us how many sellers are on the listing at any given moment. And if we go back on a yearly basis, we can kind of see it flow up and down, right? We see that over here, we've had 26 sellers on the top end. And right now we're at a respectable 15. And there was a point in time, right, around Q4 when things are really selling quick, the seller count actually was very low. So we know right now this is a moment where, people might actually end up on the listing more than we think because there's a historical average of over 20 people and we're currently at 14. So for me, this is just data that's telling me, hey, maybe this is something to worry about. There is a lot of pressure on the price right now. If we scroll down using SellerAmp to go and check all the pricing, we can see there's a lot of people priced, including one person with 201 units in stock. And it's a lot of competition for us. So these are leaning more and more towards red flags for this product, but we can go and gather way more data to help us make a decision and really know if we can potentially buy this product or not. The next thing I really like to look at is in this middle graph here, if there's a monthly sold, right? This is the yellow line here. I just took it out and put it back in. This data is one of the best points, in my opinion, for Keepa. And in Amazon Canada, this is a very high volume listing, but we can see this line as little as 10 sold per month, 20 sold per month, 30 sold per month. And once we reach 50, it starts going in batches of 50. So we know this product actually sells because Amazon is telling us, hey, there is 400 bought in the past month. All the other types of data we can get for Keepa, like the seller rank, which is essentially telling us how many drops there are in a month, equal something like one sale. It's not exactly one drop equals one sale, but we can imagine if you were ranked 5,000, right? And number one is the best. If you're ranked 5,000 and now you're ranked 4,000, it probably means you sold inventory to be ranked better. So they're assuming, hey, at least one drop is one sale. And the closer you get to number one drop equals multiples of sales. But this is all a guess based off of seller rank, right? The yellow line here, which is the monthly sold, is legitimate data that Amazon gives us and we should absolutely use. The next thing I really like with Keepa, certainly for the Canadian marketplace, is this data tab here. Whereas if we click it, and certainly if we click the offers, we can now start seeing realistic volume. So we're going to filter by prime because we're mainly FBA sellers. And we can start seeing what I like to call the downward staircase. Let me zoom in here. So we see that on January 12th, this seller had 20 in stock. And we can see a little downwards staircase, meaning that there is inventory moving sometimes in the same day or multiples of days. And we can kind of start seeing what's a realistic volume here. Because we can start saying, okay, January 15th, he had 20. And January 31st, he had 11. What about the other sellers? Well, how much inventory did they have from January 15th? And how much did they sell? And you can really start seeing movement through every single seller. Now, here's one thing though, sellers can hide their inventory count. If you go into your Amazon settings and you put maximum order quantity, this will hide how much inventory you have and Keepa will not be able to tell if you're actually selling or not. So that's why we want to see a downwards staircase here. We want to see slow downwards. If we just start seeing crazy bumps like this is not data that we're going to take to make our decision, but data that is very fluent in how much they're selling. That is a very good way of telling how much inventory you could potentially get to sell on Amazon. Now, using the downward staircase to determine volume, to using the monthly sold graph to determine volume, using seller rank to determine volume, and now using the buy box history and the seller count history to determine the supply and demand, that's when you start making decisions on if a product is good or not using Keepa. Now, for this specific ASIN at $8.49, I would probably not get it. I would probably wait if this was on sale, because if it would tumble down to the $19.99 mark, well, we're hitting around 60 cents profit and it's just not worth it. If you like these types of breakdowns, you can find my free school community in the comments. I have a bunch of free resources in there, types of things I write. And also, if you want more help and really transform your storefront, I also offer coaching. You can find both links in the comments.